entertaining us with this, and I appreciate your engagement. So, because we've done this in a few different ways, I would always love to hear, because we will get some of this data back from you, is where are you calling from or where are you taking this workshop from? We have been blessed. I actually wrote it down. We have had people calling from all over the place. So far, 12 cities, 7 countries, and 3 states within the US. And the list is growing. So I encourage you to tell us where you're from and where you're taking this course from, because it will just add to our data, and of course, it'll help us better understand how people think throughout the world in different ways. So we appreciate that. Again, you could write this in the chat, or you could write it in the Q&A, or you could write it in your worksheets. So let's dig deep into this methodology. What we need to look at first, and this is the canvas, beginning of the canvas, is you, the mindset that you have. Because your mindset is going to help us move forward with the self and what needs to be our, and then with the business and how you could move it forward. Now, throughout this program, we're really focusing on the business side of it, but it's important to touch on some of these other things, because without it, you're going to miss some opportunities to help you move things forward. So first step is to look at the mindset, then look at the self, then look at the business, then look at moving forward. So from that frame, we created this, what's called the Resilient Entrepreneur Canvas. And it's similar to any other canvas you've seen before. Nothing creative there, with the exception that it's what's in the canvas is what's creative. We start on the top with the mindset. And you will see in a minute that under the mindset, we have what we call 3 pillars that works in the mindset. Then we move to the self. And under the self, you will find that we have 2 additional blocks, me, and the next one is around me. And again, remember, these are the learnings we learned from watching other entrepreneurs articulate their story, and then back listening and then reflecting back of what we heard from thousands of people in different ways that made it more sense for us to create this process. We're going to look at the business, and you realize under the business, we have 4 other boxes. One of them, of course, is what you have, the leverage, the offer, and then the pilot. Then the last box we're going to talk about is moving forward. So now this is really a nice overview of the whole program in just one snapshot. Excuse me. So to give you a little bit more insights from me, I would like to always hear from you, because as I promised you, this will be interactive. So you tell me, from your perspective, which one is the most important? Is it the mindset? Is it you? Is it the business? Is it the moving forward? Which one is most important during crisis to make sure that things keep moving and stay resilient? So in your chat box or in your Q&A section or in your worksheet, please just write 1, 2, 3, or 4. 1 being number 1 is mindset, or 2 meaning that 2 is actually the most important, or 3 is the most important, or 4 is the moving forward. So just tell me, which one do you think out of these 4 is the most important? Okay, thank you. Well, they're all important. We believe the mindset is the most important, because without it, many of these things will fall apart. So I'm giving you a little bit more beef in here in this slide to understand the overview of this program. First step is the mindset. And underneath it, we're going to look at your entrepreneurship skills. We're going to look at your leadership skills. We're going to look at your compassion skills. And then we're going to move to the self. And self meaning yourself. We're going to look at you, yourself, and what do you know? Your acknowledgments of things. How do you deal with freaking outs, if you do freak out or not? How do you move to actions? How do you check the facts that you might be hearing or getting, especially in times of crisis? And how do you check the information source? It's all under self. Then we're going to move to talk about you and around you. And that basically going to talk about what can you leverage from what you have around you? What can you control or not control, so therefore you could have worries or no worries? What are the challenges and the opportunities that you're facing from what's happening around you, whether it's your neighborhood, your spouse, your kids, your family, your extended family, your whatever the scenario is. Then we're going to talk about, can you repurpose some of the things that you personally may have to help you reshape yourself, okay? Then we're going to talk about how do you lead this information to help you move forward yourself. Once we're done with that, we're going to move to the business part of it. And then first thing we want to look at is what do you have? What resources, what product, what services, what customers? The list is long. Then we're going to talk about what can you leverage from what you have, okay? Do you have any access to resources that maybe you could leverage? Do you have a network that you could tap into? Do you need any more training? Do you need to do any upgrades of skills? Can you repackage something that's today sold in one way, you can sell it another way? Can you repackage it? Maybe you sold it before as a package. Can you unpackage it? We're going to walk through those things to help you think through your business. Then once you leverage, we're going to talk about what offer can you offer now? What new product or services can you be offering with what you leverage from what you have? See how it all builds together? Then we talk about what modifications you might have to do it. So if you repackaged it and just chopped it up, do you have to create a new package for it? Or if it was sold separately and now you want to package it, do you have to put it together in a certain way? You have to think through that. And then of course, we're going to talk about what new customer segmentations, because maybe your old customers are not the same customers that you want to go after now. So what new customers you're going to go after. Then we'll move to pilot. Purpose of that is you got to test something. You can't just go after it and say, okay, we're switching and we're going to move forward. Remember, it's a crisis mode. And this is why we're saying it's the Resilient Entrepreneur Program, because you have to be resilient of what you're doing. You can't just set it up and move forward. You got to set it up and be ready to modify, tweak, and keep things changing to accept any new changes that could be imposed on you, or imposed by you, or imposed by the scenario or situation that you're in. So we're going to talk about test and modify. We're going to talk about, are you ready for new changes if something changes again? And we're going to talk about what new partners or pathways do you need to have to make this forward. Then we'll move to the last box, which is moving forward. And in that box, we're going to talk about operation management. What kind of operation management do you need to have in this mode? Now that you leverage what you had, you have a new product, you have a new service, now you're piloting it, what are the operations needed to manage and to keep things moving? Then we're going to talk about, of course, because it's a crisis mode and you want to stay resilient, we're going to talk about safety and security. What are the things that you're doing to move things forward, to keep things safe and secure? In this scenario with today's COVID-19, of course, we're talking about health, but it could be something else in the future. It's really the same things that we learned from other situations, and we all know that no one situation or crisis is the same, but what we could learn from it is somewhat similar, and this is what we're doing here. Time management. Moving forward, you got to be able to manage your time. And how do you manage your time through these days? Many of us working today more hours than ever. Many. Why? Because there's a demand. And now you have to try to figure out why, because all kinds of things happen. So you got to learn how to manage your time. And then, of course, communications, and both internally and externally, are some of the things you want to think about. And in a nutshell, this is really the whole canvas that we're going to walk through over the next 5 weeks. I hope that this is giving you a nice overview of what you will be facing as we walk through it. Now, remember, your engagement is important. I could talk for hours or for days. Sure, I have lots of stories to share. Thousands of people that I worked with, I'm lucky enough to know their stories where I could share it. But the reality is, if you're not engaged in the process, these stories mean nothing, because at the end of the day, it's got to make an impact on you and what you have to do.